right. Thank you for being here today. So we're here at today at Sonoma Mountain Zen Center, and it's the time is here. We're in the Ango practice period. The term Ango translates as peaceful dwelling, and it happens twice a year, here in February and then in August. And the originally, when Soto Zen was established, so that was, well, this month, February, 802 years ago, when Dogen, who's the founder of the Soto Zen lineage, arrived in China. And he had been sent there to study further in the Dharma. And in his time, Ango was 3 months in duration. Now it's just 1 month. And it's a time when we spend the month here at the Zen Center in the monastery, working together, studying together, sitting, training together, and it's a very intentionally designed structure of time to facilitate the practice and to help build a stronger, closer Sangha. Sonoma Mountain Zen Center is one of several Soto Zen centers set up when Suzuki Roshi was here from Japan in the late 60s. And Soto Zen translates as just sitting, having a silent practice without striving for any particular accomplishment. And as thoughts arise, without either grasping at them or trying to push them away. So my name is Michael McCulloch, and my Buddhist name is Zenman, and that translate very briefly as the front face of reality, in the sense that in Soto Zen there's a non-duality of subject and object, and what is happening is what's really there, and that sort of the door between those two that's the Zenman. In my work, I'm an acupuncturist, and I studied in a apprenticeship. This was just after the acupuncture bill here in California had been signed into law by first-term Governor Jerry Brown. And at that time, it was a particularly important time for the Dharma here, because there were lots of people coming from Japan, but also from Tibet. And when the lamas were fleeing Tibet, from the communists, and so there was a lot happening then, and that was kind of my first introduction to the Dharma. I wasn't quite sure at that point how or why to take it seriously. What am I agreeing to was a question that came up quite often. And then later, when I met Kwang Roshi here from Sonoma Mountain, I discussed this with him, and about the topic of taking it seriously, or how to approach that. And he asked me, well, how much time do you think you have? So that got my attention, and that thought stuck and kind of slowly started to have its effect on me. And so here we are today. So I'd like to describe what my experience has been here, practicing with my Dharma friends at Sonoma Mountain, and how that spirit of togetherness and working together has been helpful. When I first encountered the Dharma, I would spend some time sitting, and then I'd go and hear a Dharma talk, and then I'd read a little bit. But the three parts weren't really connected to each other. And then more recently, and particularly since I've been here for the Ango period, then all those three different parts of the brain started to talk to each other and inform each other and share information. So my title for and my theme for the Ango period is having the idea of what in the book is called actualizing fundamental point, meaning how being there and being available and being ready and being willing to notice the moment as it's actually happening. And my role here in the Ango is the Shuso, or the head student, and I'm helping with a lot of the procedures. I give Dharma talks, some of them, and that day starts, for us here at 5 in the morning, and hear the bell outside. My day starts about an hour before that, because one of my tasks is to take the bell that's on the altar and walking all through the grounds of the center, out to the gate, down to the bell, and down to the residential halls, stop by the bathroom, come back up in the office. And the whole time I'm ringing the bell really loudly. And it's, when it's that far away from you, you really hear the sound very clearly, and it feels like a sort of it has a broad reach, into the sky. It's very striking. So then the first zazen starts after the bell ringing. We get things organized in here. It starts at 5 o'clock. And that, there's 2 sittings, and in between is this practice called the kinhin, or the walking meditation. And I've always been fascinated with the walking meditation, because the character for walking is, in the Chinese, there's a horizontal, diagonal stroke, and then a vertical. But in this case, it's the double man walking, or 2 people walking. So this walking in the Zendo, it all happens together, while we're here, between the sittings. The term for walking meditation also means walking the Dharma, or the book of walking, but also this part really gets my imagination going. It's carrying the text. Because when Dogen came from China back to Japan, he brought with him the text of the Buddhist practice. in the same way that 600 years earlier in the Tang Dynasty, that those books had been brought by the Tang priest to China. So it's a very kind of compelling action to take in the practice. And the way that Dogen described our practice is it's very much action intensive, the application and what you're doing and the way you're doing them, as much as it is about sitting. Excuse me, just a minute. And related to the term Zenman is a process called echo hensho, where the light that's shining out from you, you turned it we turned it inward to illuminate the moment that's there in front of you. And on Tuesday, just before 7 in the morning, and the clouds were already in for the rains, and very thick all up on the mountain here behind us. And I was walking, we'd finished the Zazen, walking outside, and I looked up at the mountain there, and just below the peak, there's like a little valley, a little kind of a concave curve in it, kind of like the shape of your hand. And there were thick clouds there, right inside that little space. And all of a sudden, what I was seeing in front of me, and my curiosity about that space and what was inside of it, what was behind the clouds, and in my mind, all the lights sort of started to switch on and connect to each other. And I thought about that moment. It was very brief. I thought about that later. What was the structure of time and interaction and events and tasks that kind of helped make that moment possible, or to make it possible for me to notice that moment was happening, for that moment to arrive. And I think for me, a key part of the Ango is that we're all experiencing it together, and that throughout the day, early in the morning to the end of the evening, there's a very rapid sequence of alternating interaction and solitude, chanting and meal ritual, silence, laughter. There's also a kind of a rapid sequence of different instructions and their implications. So be on time, but don't hurry. Follow the form of Zen closely, but make it your own. Be open to receive the teaching, but then receive it actively and grab it firmly and with dedication, hold tightly and make it your own. And that kind of led to the answer to my question of those earlier years, what am I agreeing to, is the thought that, this came from Tokan, you have to be willing to take the time. And that then can start to make things possible. So there was all kind of heading toward that one brief little moment outside, the willingness to take the time, the interaction, the support of everyone here, the practice, reading, talking about reading, sitting together, walking together, cleaning practice. That whole structure is designed to help with one's observations and insights. And part of what happens here during the Ango is there's a lot of time for self-study, reading. And the book that I chose to support the theme and to help inform the discussions and the sitting is the Shobo Genzo by Dogen. So this is a painting, portrait of him. And so he's the one that went to China from Japan. And before he went, he was pretty young, I think, in his early teens. And he presented a question to the head of the temple where he was living, for which the head priest didn't have an answer. He said, go to China and study. So his Dharma talks at his temple called Eiji, these were all recorded, written down, and that collection is this book. And he wrote there in the beginning of the book, I will leave this record to people who learn in practice and are easy in the truth, so that they can know the right Dharma of the Buddha's lineage. This may be a true mission. And learn and practice and easy in the Dharma, easy in the truth. This is one of the things I really like about the tone that is set here at Stone Mountain, which is, it's relaxed but serious. And that has worked very well for me. I feel, at home here. So I asked Roshi about this book. Shobo Genzo is the name of the book. And, because it's 1,100 pages. It's very thin paper. It's a lot of pages. And so I asked Roshi, and he said, well, which one do you have there? So this is translated by Tanahashi. Very good, very clear, very accessible. Tanahashi edited the writings that were done by a collection of Buddhist writers here, a lot of them from the US. And he looked at the book, he said, well, if you're concerned about the 1,100 pages, how about get the second 1,100 pages? And that's this translation. And this one translated by Ishijima. And what was, and I'll describe in a moment what having the two of them to kind of compare them led to. And one of the things that's noteworthy about Master Dogen's talks and essays is that he structures them as a kind of a debate. And he sets up the question or the dilemma, then provides some instruction, and then brings it together at the end, but not all the way. There's always like a little bit of mystery left. So this was the first Dharma essay that he wrote on returning from China, called Fuken Zazengi. And it translates as universal or broadly accessible, very straightforward Zazen instruction. but the character used for the instruction word, it also means rites or rituals, and to a ceremony, and so it's a very tightly written and very accessible piece. So in the Fuken Zazen, first he starts off with, so let me get this straight. So the Dharma is there. It's always been there. It's originally perfect. It's all pervading. Then if that's the case, why does its survival and existence depend on practice and realization? We're good, right? We don't need to do all that much sitting. And if what you need is right there in front of you, right where you are, then why bother going off somewhere else, to a monastery, or here, or to India, or Japan, or China? He doesn't give an answer there, just kind of leaves that hanging, and then proceeds the instruction. And so that the instruction that some of you had this morning, that comes straight from Master Dogen's Fuken Zazen, which is also a chapter in the big book, the Shobo Genzo. And so that's one notable quality of Dogen and his writing. Another one that really works for me is that it's very straightforward, and speaking to his emphasis on practical application of Zen, it is very clear and well structured and accessible or understandable. And that works for me. And so in the Fuken Zazengi, all of the instructions then are provided in such a way that you can do this right now. And as to, sometimes he's very quizzical. He says, as to thinking of nothing, how do you think of not thinking? Non-thinking. That's the essence of that. He's kind of turning the phrase in such a way that sometimes if you look at it this way or you look at it that way, one or the other is going to reach you. I'm a kind of a slow metabolizer of insights, and so it's some of the understanding of Zen has really only started to come clear for me right now during this Ango, in spite of all prior efforts. So what I thought I would do is then describe I'm going to read two different passages from the Shobo Genzo. And one comes from the translation by Tanahashi, and then the same passage from the translation by Nishijima. And it goes like this. And this is speaking to, this is kind of the core of my theme for the Ango, as to seeking or allowing to happen insights during very ordinary moments. So in Tanahashi, he says, here is the place, the way unfolds, the boundary of realization is not distinct. What is inconceivable may not be apparent. So nicely structured, nicely rounded writing, and ends somewhat enigmatically. Then in Nishijima, he goes, in the state of the Dharma, the place exists and the way is mastered. The area to be known is not conspicuous. So instead of the boundary realization is not distinct, I don't know, that was too indistinct for me. It didn't really catch my attention. And this is the very, very last section of this one talk that Dogen gave. But then when I read from Nishijima, the state of Dharma, the place exists. In the state of Dharma, the place exists. Which kind of said to me, it was kind of like Roshi's comment, it's there if you want to access it. How do you master it? Well, a lot of sitting, a lot of practice, a lot of time with the Sangha. That's one thing I'm really, really getting in this Ango is the kind of participating in that openly and directly and sort of essential to, not just sort of, is essential to the propagation of the Dharma over time. The area to be known is not conspicuous. What I got from that is, instead of what is inconceivable may not be apparent, is it there or not there? I'm not sure. But written as the area to be known, this is why you train. The area to be known is not conspicuous. That was kind of that little valley up at the top of the mountain, all packed with clouds, right there. That to me was this passage. And then it ends. It gets even more interesting. The last sentence, instead of what is inconceivable may not be apparent. Instead, Tanahashi writes it as, realization is the state of ambiguity itself. That one really got me. It's kind of like, at the end of a really good blues song where they end on an 11th chord. Like, things are kind of settled, but really, I don't know. It's a work in progress. Then, last little part. As I was saying earlier, the subjective and subject and object, and the moment arising, or your kind of grabbing onto the moment and being right there with it, kind of like water ski. It's good as long as you don't fall off. And that kind of ending in the state of non-duality, but accepting the ambiguity. I'm going to read a very brief poem. This is written by a patient who was kind of expressing what she was going through. And it's titled, Am I Safe Today, 2021? When I go out to the still dark street, sliver of moon in the sky, 6:30 a.m. to pick up my newspaper. I look around to see if nobody got into the garage while I was stooping carefully to scoop it up. Am I safe today when I return from a bike ride, having braved all the possible dog attacks, gasoline fumes, cars in the bike lane, and once more lay neuropathied feet on the ground? or when I lock all the doors, shut the windows, set the alarm, and pretend I've shut out all the fears of this uncertain age? Did I earn my safety today by undergoing chemo last year? Or was it further back when I hid in the crawl space between the fences from the boys who were chasing me in my old neighborhood? Was it when I leaped from a speeding car on the bridge to avoid an abduction? Or when I climbed a hill alone only to find a mirror on the top where I looked at my reflection at 19 and thought, I will survive this life? No, I will survive this life. Then the question mark about the whole passage. Am I safe today from fears of car crashes, pandemics, climate changing, accidents, recurrences, dictators? Nope. All I can do is pedal on through the glorious reds and golds of this November fall, pushing through the past, the present, and the unsettling, the ambiguity, just around the corner, future of us all.